Hey, do you want to cringe so badly that it hurts? Well, boy, do I have some video to play for you then. My goodness, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley had a town hall with CNN last night where she was again asked about her Civil War answer. This, of course, relating to her getting asked the question, what was the cause of the Civil War? A really simple question, and delivering this bonkers word salad that notably didn't include the word slavery. And I thought we had already seen the worst and the end of that story, but it got even worse at her town hall last night. So before playing the clip I'm referring to, let me first remind you of the moment that started this whole debacle from one of her recent campaign events.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not running for president. I wanted to see your opinion on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government and what the rights of the people are. And I will always stand by the fact that I think government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. Government doesn't need to tell you how to live your life. They don't need to tell you what you can and can't do. They don't need to be a part of your life. They need to make sure that you have freedom. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you've answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
So a whole lot of words to a very simple question. Again, missing the key one. With that being said, here was Nikki Haley on CNN last night.
And this, of course, is referring back to New Hampshire, where you were asked to explain the cause of the Civil War. You obviously did not mention slavery. And afterwards, you came up, you said that was a mistake. In fact, you said it should have been the first thing that you said. So you did come out and say that. Chris Christie, though, came out and said that you gave that answer not because you're, in his words, dumb or racist, but because you're, quote, unwilling to offend anyone by telling the truth. What do you say to that?
No one's ever said that I am unwilling to offend. I offend plenty of people because I call people out when they do something wrong. What I will tell you is Chris Christie is from New Jersey. I should have said slavery right off the bat. But if you grow up in South Carolina, literally in second and third grade, you learn about slavery. You grow up and you have, I had black friends growing up. It is a very talked about thing. We have a big history in South Carolina when it comes to, slavery, when it comes to all the things that happened with the Civil War, all of that. I was thinking past slavery and talking about the lesson that we would learn going forward. I shouldn't have done that. I should have said slavery, but in my mind, that's a given that everybody associates the Civil War with slavery.
She had black friends growing up, guys. My goodness, then, Nikki. What are we even doing? I apologize. Let's just move on from the subject altogether. It's so uncomfortable. And why on earth is she so nervous and fidgety? It's so uncomfortable to watch. We have a big history in South Carolina with slavery and, all the other things and stuff and sort of, okay. I was thinking past slavery, really. I was skipping over it for the sake of learning from it and something. You were asked what was the cause of the Civil War, Nikki, not what's the lesson in regard to the role of government during that period of time that overlaps with the Civil War, blah, 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 blah. So brutal. Also, just quick thing, if a single person comments on this video, no, it was about states' rights, I'm going to pull every single one of my hairs out. States' rights to do what? What was the right that states were wanting to have? Just answer that. It'll save yourself the energy of leaving a comment. Then here's another moment from her town hall responding to a question about mass shootings.
With the school shooting that happened today in Perry, how do you plan to address the school shooting issue? Enough is enough with politicians skirting the issue on this, and it must be addressed.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? I mean, our hearts go out to the parents of all of them. Our hearts go out to the kids that are going to have to deal with this for a few years. So much thanks to law enforcement, to the chief who did a great job, to the principal who really has come out as such a hero in this. But look, I have a mom heart. My daughter works at the Children's Hospital, and I worry about something happening there. My son is a senior in college. I worry about something happening on his campus. My son-in-law is a 5th grade teacher at a school. I worry about something happening there. Every day, the first thing I do when I wake up is think of my kids, and the last thing I think of when I go to bed is my kids. And so I know the concerns that everybody has. But it is time that we deal with this in the way that we should deal with this. Instead of living in fear, let's do something about it. We have got to deal with the cancer that is mental health. We have to. 1 in 3 people have a mental health issue. But if treated, they can live a perfectly normal life. What we see is 80% of mass shooters are in some sort of crisis at the time that they do that. We've got to do better. The problem is we don't have enough mental health therapists.
Okay, so a lot to go through in response to that answer. First of all, the sentence, quote, "we have got to deal with the cancer that is mental health," is just a strange sentence. Mental health is good. We want people to be healthy mentally. It's the issues regarding mental health that we want to address. I know that's what she meant, but just found it strange. The other thing is, did you notice how long she took to answer the question? Most politician thing imaginable. Oh, I worry about things, and I have kids who work here and another kid who works there, and I just think we have to talk about the real solutions to the real problems facing real Americans. And frankly, we're all Americans, not red states, not blue states, but the United States, and liberty is what I'm fighting for. I live and breathe freedom. Do you understand that? Oh, also mental health. Yeah, sure. I guess I'll sort of answer the question. Ridiculous. Because, of course, she's using the subject of mental health as a substitute for action to more properly regulate guns. In reality, of course, we should do both. It's pretty simple. Invest better in mental health services, as well as pass common sense gun laws. And I'll circle back to the gun element of the conversation in a second. But first, I need to remind you that consistently, it's Republicans, despite statements like that, opposing mental health legislation. Let's go through some examples. In 2022, the Mental Health Matters Act that sought to expand mental health services in schools passed the House 220 votes to 205, all 205. No votes were Republicans. Again, in 2022, Restoring Hope for Mental Health and Wellbeing Act, opposed by a group of 20 MAGA Republicans. The National Alliance on Mental Illness referred in 2011 to the, quote, crisis that has resulted from state slashing of mental health programs. Of course, mainly Republicans in Congress who pushed for those block grant cuts. Then just a random example from the Obama years, $500 million was proposed at one point by Obama for investments in the mental health system, opposed by most Republicans. And then you can also look at this map of the US put together by Mental Health Insider that shows a state-by-state comparison of mental health services ranked on cost, access, and quality. And lo and behold, it is primarily red states with worse systems, blue states with better systems. The more green, the worse on this visual. For our video viewers, the more blue or purple, the better. And then Nikki Haley was governor of South Carolina for 6 years. But according to the same ranking, South Carolina's mental health care system is ranked 50th out of 51, counting the District of Columbia. 50th. Nearly the worst with their mental health system. So clearly she did not make it a priority to address mental health issues in her state while she was in office. But it's a great way to distract, I guess, from her unwillingness to actually address gun violence in the country. Now, I've gone through so many times in the past the specifics of this conversation, the way that weak gun law states see more gun violence than stronger gun law states. On average, the murder rate in Trump won states in 2020 was 40% higher than Biden won states. The United States has more guns and less regulations than every other industrialized nation, and thus we see more gun violence by far. We've gone through the data on all of that so many times in the past, and we'll do it again in the future. But instead of doing it again here, I want to make a different data-driven point connected to this. One of the talking points brought forward often by anti-common sense gun law advocates goes something like this. Well, sure, we have more gun deaths than every other industrialized country, but that's irrelevant, because if it weren't guns, it would be deaths by knife or deaths by hammers. You'll hear people say, there's more hammer deaths than guns in the United States. Not even close to true. We'll look at a chart later, but that's the talking point, right? Yeah, here, our homicides are just mainly guns, but it would be something else if we regulated guns better. Well, it seems a rational person could figure out that that talking point is ridiculous without looking at the numbers, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. Looking at general homicide rates by country, so not gun deaths, just homicide rates. The United States has a homicide rate, according to the World Population Review for 2023, of 4.96 per 100,000 people. So about 5 per 100,000 people. That puts us in between Kenya and Cuba, if you rank countries. Kenya having a lower homicide rate and Cuba having a slightly higher one. To give you perspective, Japan's homicide rate is 0.26 per 100,000 people. 0.26. But okay, we don't want to compare to Japan. Australia's is 0.89. The United Kingdom is 1.2. Again, we're around 5 per 100,000. Or take Canada, 1.76. Our homicide rate is more than twice that of Canada's. The United States is the wealthiest country on the planet, and we have a higher homicide rate than every other country with even somewhat comparable economies. We also have the highest gun death rate among all those same countries. And based on analysis of 2021, more than 85% of homicides involved a firearm in the United States. So no, it's not that in America people just kill people with guns, but in other countries they do it at similar rates with other things. It's that we're choosing to let so many more people die in this country because of our gun policies. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel.